Hi, my name is Amber Nesbitt. I'm one of the co-founders of Campus Integrity Group. I'm here today to talk about our approach for handling off-campus staff arrests for a variety of misconduct. These situations arise for school districts across the country when you least expect them, so schools need to have a plan in place to respond quickly and effectively so that they can maintain the trust and safety of their school community.
Okay, so let's set the stage for what we're talking about today. Let's say your school is notified that a staff member has been arrested for serious off-campus criminal conduct. These recent headlines taken from newspapers across the country reflect the kinds of allegations schools have to contend with, whether it's violent behavior, drug and alcohol charges, allegations that a staff member is abusing their own children, and of course, possession of child pornography. Before we continue, I have to advise you that we are not providing legal advice today. States have different laws about if and when an employer can consider an employee's arrest or the underlying circumstances of that arrest when making employment decisions. So before you take any action, check with your legal counsel. Schools should have a response plan in place that they can follow when off-campus arrests occur. First and foremost, they need to start by prioritizing student and staff safety until more information is available. So depending on the alleged criminal conduct, they should consider whether they should place the arrested employee on administrative leave or reassign them. If termination of their employment is an option based on their employment status and union rights, that can also be considered as well. They should consider whether they need to limit that employee's access to the building and electronic devices, and whether notification to the school community or state licensing bodies is appropriate. They should also start conducting an administrative investigation to assess the alleged criminal conduct under the preponderance of the evidence standard. We don't recommend that you rely on law enforcement only, especially when criminal charges are not filed. This administrative investigation will focus on the outside conduct that this employee is accused of and determine whether disciplinary action is warranted under your code of conduct and applicable policies. Finally, we also recommend that you do a red flags check. For all arrests that raise concern for student and staff safety, whether or not criminal charges are filed. And now we'll turn to the details of our red flags check procedure. This is something that my co-founder Amy Liss and I created as we led the Chicago Public Schools Sexual Allegations Unit. When we were notified of a staff arrest for off-campus sexual misconduct, we wanted to understand the alleged criminal conduct, but also wanted to look for any red flags within that employee's school community, especially for more serious offenses involving student safety. Okay, so what is a red flags check? In short, it's an assessment of the arrested employee's interactions with staff and students meant to identify any on-campus complaints or concerns. It also involves a review of their employment documentation, background checks, any previous complaints that have been made against them, and those kinds of materials. Why should you do a red flags check? Well, first and foremost, this can help identify any on-campus complaints or concerns that you may not have been aware of involving the arrested employee that may require investigation or disciplinary action. This process can also help uncover potential additional victims or criminal conduct that you can refer promptly to law enforcement. And finally, the red flags check may not uncover any concerns within your own school community. This can provide assurance to your administrators that no misconduct was identified on campus, while also documenting your school's swift and thorough response. Let's also remember that just because someone is arrested, that does not mean that they're going to be criminally charged. The police require probable cause to arrest someone, but a prosecutor usually needs probable cause and sufficient evidence to support a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt to pursue criminal charges. So if no charges are filed, a red flags check can help guide the school's next steps. The following are examples of school staff who did not face charges after an arrest for serious misconduct. So this situation does arise. There are 4 main stages to doing a red flags check. The first is to start with the readily available materials like the personnel file and disciplinary records. Here you want to review all the information that you have available about the arrested employee, the scope of their duties, their supervisor, performance reviews, background check, and if you're in a jurisdiction that requires the sharing of disciplinary investigations between school districts such as Illinois, California, Michigan, you'd want to read whatever previous employers may have provided during that process. Next, you move on to collecting additional information and making sure you're preserving relevant evidence. So you'll want to make sure you can get a copy of the police report, whether from the police themselves or from the arrested employee, and consider if there's any evidence within your school community that might be relevant to the criminal investigation. So for example, if the arrested employee is a school bus driver who's alleged to have engaged in sexual abuse of a child, I would recommend preserving several days of bus footage that you can review throughout the process to see if there's any concerning interactions within your own school community that you can share with law enforcement. And next, you want to make sure you've reviewed all previous complaints or incidents involving the employee, even if they weren't investigated for any reason. Next, you move on to staff assessments where you speak with that person's supervisor and additional colleagues to understand their interaction with staff and students and any concerns that those individuals are aware of. And finally, you move on to student assessments. We recommend speaking with at least 3 students, more if necessary, and you want to ask them broad questions about their interactions with this arrested staff member. Ideally, you would find students who do have a regular reason to interact with them, whether it's a student in their class, or a student on a team that the person coaches, someone who's likely to have had experiences with that person. And if there's concerns that you're finding or additional names are being mentioned, you should expand the circle as needed. Campus Integrity Group is excited to launch our new staff arrest guide that's available in our marketplace if you follow the QR code there. This 17-page written guide walks administrators through each phase of this response process, from the documents that should be collected and reviewed to the information obtained from law enforcement about the off-campus arrest or the on-campus arrest. Includes the specific staff and students that we recommend you speak to and specific questions that you should ask of those people. It also includes a final page for decision makers to write their recommendations on next steps. And importantly, each section owner is designated, so several leaders can be working on the response at the same time. Our key takeaways from our red flags check is to act quickly but carefully, prioritize student safety and due process, communicate clearly and consistency across your leadership team, but also the school community if appropriate. Always conduct a red flags check to make sure you're not missing something within your own community, regardless of the off-campus conduct. You should make sure you document every step, seek legal and HR guidance throughout the process, and ensure you're complying with local, state, and federal laws. And here's that QR code again to visit our marketplace for our step-by-step, easy-to-use guides, including the one we talked about today. We'll be adding more guides every week, but please reach out if there's a specific topic that you would like us to draft a guidance on. These guides are available for immediate download as the standard version, or we can create a customized version tailored to your own district's needs. Thank you for watching today. To learn more about our approach to helping keep your school community safe, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.